You don't know what to make. I'm not sure what we're going to say. It's a typical Sunday. Uh-oh. Can you hear? My hearing just went out. I assume we're on. I'm just going to talk. Welcome, folks, to A Sparrow's Call. It is going up. Can you hear, though? Is your thing working? Okay, I'm just going to talk anyway. Maybe we don't need it. You can take yours out? All right. Welcome to the Sparrow's Call. Today we're going to talk about... What are we going to talk about today, Paul? The persistence of Jesus Christ as a valid point of interest to even the most extreme or hostile skeptic. I hear all the time my friends on the in the atheist tent, or even just the hostile to Christianity tent, comment that Jesus was no different than Osiris or Horus or what's the Roman god of like wine and partying. Do you remember? Bacchus. That Jesus was just an amalgamation of all these previous gods and really no different than any of them, and kind of like if they get this message out to the world, it's not accurate, by the way, but if they get this message out to the world, then people will just drop Jesus like they have Thor and Isis and Horus and the rest of them. And the thing is Jesus isn't like all those other gods. Jesus persists. And he persists throughout the storm of scandal, the storm of skepticism, the storm of doubt, and even of deconstruction. And I just want to say, if you are an atheist listening, I welcome all who come in peace, as my father used to say. We love to have you here. As a matter of fact, this whole show is geared to people who've been harmed by religion or their faith or their church or Christianity, and yet you're still brave enough to be open to spirituality in some way, or to asking the hard questions from both sides, from those within the faith and those without. This show is for you. So we'll comment more on that after this. Let me just check one thing. All right, we're back. I'm going to put you on Poe for a second. She's going to tell you what she's going to do today. Well,
I have no idea what I'm doing today. I'm tired.
Why are you tired?
I didn't sleep well.
Were you up late, goofing
Not
around?
Not really, but it's summer, so a little bit.
It says it's not paired. I think it'll be paired now. Sorry, folks. I'm connecting my AirPods so we can hear. Now we can hear. Perfect. Don't know how that happened. All right. So let's get right into this. First, a couple of quotes I shared this morning that I think are important to kind of bring you up to speed in case you're new to the show, what Church Without Walls is, what we do here at Sparrow's Call. And Steve Weens reminds us that blessed are those who can't breathe inside a church because of the pain it has caused, for God will meet them elsewhere. That's our jam right there. That's our vibe. Those are our people. We welcome you to join us Sunday mornings. We don't have a specific time. We don't pray. We don't sing. Sometimes we'll do the Lord's Supper, but we try to make it as friendly as possible to those who are going through doubt or skepticism or church hurt, or I shouldn't say church hurt. That's such a lame expression, isn't it? The pain that many of us have felt through their upbringing, through their faith upbringing, what have you. We try and keep it casual, so bagels, we don't eat them on air because my wife thinks I look like a slob when I do that. Otherwise, right now we'd be eating kata. We made some Assyrian kata. But We encourage you to stay in your robe, or you can parade in your boxers. Like, what was that, Larry David? Be as comfortable as you can. Grab a bagel, grab a coffee, and join us on Sunday mornings at some time. Try and keep it very casual, and we try and start where we can all agree, which is most of my atheist friends would say they view Jesus as somebody who really existed, but has been blown up into a legend. And I'm willing to be there with you. Jesus the legend, that's fine. What I believe really isn't important, even though I believe Jesus is more than that, but I want to say to you that today's discussion about Jesus really is going to start there. Just if you only take Jesus as a legend, as a manufactured, what have you, you're going to be comfortable today. I'm not going to make you uncomfortable. I'm just going to do one of those things that Arsenio Hall used to say, things that make you go, That's what we're going to talk about today. But blessed are those who can't breathe inside a church because of the pain it has caused, for God will meet them elsewhere. And also my friend Madeline Langle, who's probably been more inspiring to me in my walk or journey of faith than even C.S. Lewis. So Madeline Langle asked the hard questions and made some hard declarations. Here she says, we need to remember that the house of God is not limited to a building that we usually visit for only a few hours on Sunday. The house of God is not a safe place. It's a cross where time and eternity meet, and where we are, or should be, challenged to live more vulnerably, more interdependently, where even with the light streaming in rainbow colors through the windows, we can listen to the stars. From her A Stone for Pillar. So I want to talk about how Jesus persists. Last time we were on with you, we did an episode called In the House of My Friends, where we looked at two Christian docuseries that have recently aired, Shiny Happy People and, I don't know, the Hillsong, whatever that was, controversy, where we looked at wounds that were carried out not by hostile atheists, but by sincere and insincere Christians, by people who actually profess and confess Christianity. Maybe some of them, maybe a portion of them were taking the Lord's name in vain, but many of them weren't. And so here we've acknowledged that there's been scandal in the church, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. The whole Gothard purity movement that turned Christians into Christian nationalists, the Jesus and John Wayne chapter in American evangelicalism, and the whole Hillsong, the mega church, we want to be a Fortune 500 company, and appeal to Selena Gomez and the Kardashian girls as the it place to be on a Sunday in New York. So we do want to mention, and this is what I want to share with you. Jesus persists throughout outrageous scandal within the church. I mean, if you want to see something ugly, look at church history. You want to see a poor reflection of what, at least if you believe in, well, you don't even have to believe. Let's start with the Jesus legend. The Jesus legend is this revolutionary character who stood up to the powers of his day and said, no, you move, like Captain America, right? And I'm not talking about a military figure. I'm talking about somebody who said in a society enamored by riches that it is more likely that a camel could pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man enter or inherit the kingdom of God. This is in the face of a very materialistic society, quite like ours today. We see Jesus in the midst of this strong Jewish hatred for their Roman oppressors. Forgive my cough, it's allergies. Say, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. encouraging people to pay their taxes, making Roman centurions and soldiers heroes of his stories. We see Jesus in a time of great racism, picking the most ostracized, hated race, the Samaritans, and making them the hero of his stories. He was confronting all that was ugly in his day, whether it was political, religious, cultural, and he was doing it with the strength of a voice that would get him killed. Now, that's part of the Jesus legend. Even if you don't believe Jesus was God or the Son of God or somebody sent of God, even if you don't believe in the resurrection, we all can accept that. That was the Jesus as Zorro, or the Jesus as Batman, or I shouldn't say Batman, the Jesus as Robin Hood, or as Zorro, my two favorite heroes, confronting power, willing to sacrifice their own privilege for the lesser, for the common man, speaking out for those who don't have a voice. This is Jesus, and we could get into that more later. But that Jesus persists, even though those who have taken his name in modern times and ancient times have soiled it, have brought shame upon it. Shame upon the name of Christianity, from the Crusades to modern times. The scandal in the church these days is horrific. And if you are judging Christianity by the headlines, if you are a just person, if you are a humble person, and if you're a loving person, if you're a person filled with empathy, if you love mercy, you're going to run from the church because it's not found there. You're going to run from the Catholic priest scandal, from bishops shuffling around pedophiles to escape blame, to save face, not caring, sacrificing the innocent to protect the guilty for their own personal gain. You're going to see in the evangelical church a movement of patriarchy that keeps women down as second-class citizens, that treats the the Q plus, that's easy for me to say, that treats the Q plus community like less than human. You're going to look past all of that and still see that Jesus persists, even in the midst of not just the scandal, but the skepticism of, for example, the science, what we do a lot of it in our Voices in the Wilderness aspect of this ministry is see where science and faith meet and often collide. Modern science isn't an enemy of Christianity, but it's an enemy of a large portion of Christianity, which embraces pseudoscience and sees science and enlightenment outside of the church as a threat or as an enemy, and embraces ridiculous things, from conspiracy theories to the age of the earth being young to all kinds of maddening things. And yet Jesus persists. Jesus persists beyond those who have made the Bible into an idol, into God itself, and defend all kinds of horrid things found in the Bible, from mass genocide in the flood and in the Canaanite era to verses that were in its cultural context maybe accepted at the time, but when we look back on them, we see how poorly they are, how poorly they've survived into modern times. Because the Bible was a patriarchal book, is a patriarchal book. Because the Bible doesn't understand the complexity of sexuality and some things that we've come to gain knowledge on. So, and yet Jesus persists. Jesus persists beyond scandal, beyond skepticism, beyond doubt, and even deconstruction. Jesus persists. Now, some of you may think that's a negative thing, that's a thing that over time will die, but I don't think it will. Because when you strip Jesus down to what he said and what he did, and I know we can nitpick there, but ultimately there is beauty there. There is truth there. There is goodness there. We see that when he tells the story of the lost sheep, of the lost coin, and of the lost son, there is beauty there. There always will be beauty. That is a timeless story that confronts nearly every generation that has ever walked, and well, not nearly every, but every generation that has walked this earth. Jesus's argument to love not just our neighbors. See, the funny thing there is, in the time in which Jesus lived, neighbor had been reduced to mean people of our own tribe. It's not even our fellow Jews, but people of our particular tribe. And the time of Jesus was so much like the time we live in today. Because in Christianity, you see that in Christianity. You see segments of Christianity looking down on other segments, questioning their salvation, wondering if they're even of God. You know, I came from a movement that was very isolated. And while we might believe other people were Christians, we kind of didn't think that they were in the know. There was a Gnostic aspect to dispensationalism or the free grace movement where we had arrived. You know, that story of the guy who dies and goes to heaven, and Peter gives him the tour of heaven, and he walks by, the Southern Baptists who are having a pancake, a Saturday morning pancake breakfast, and the pastor's there wearing white socks and sandals and flipping pancakes, and of course there's no alcohol at that. And then you walk a little bit further and you see the Roman Catholics on their bingo night, spinning the roulette wheel and drinking wine, and then eventually you get to this like tower. That's an old tower with a big wooden door, and it creaks open, and Peter looks back at you and says, shh, shh, shh. And you creep up these winding stairs to this top room, and there's cobwebs and there's dust, and he points to you through a slightly open door at the top of the stairs, and you see three old men that look like Gandalf with long white beards poring over the scrolls, and Peter bids you to look, and you whisper to him, who are these? And he says, these are the Plymouth Brethren, or these are the Grace Believers, or these are the Dispensationalists. Shh, they think they're the only ones here. And that joke is true of many within Christendom. Some who don't believe that Catholics are really even Christians. But you have this really ugly view emanating from people who call themselves by the name of Christ. This was so prevalent to somebody. I love Gandhi's quote, even though it breaks my heart, when Gandhi said, I look at your Christ, then I'm enamored with him. He's larger than life, and I would follow him. I would be a Christian if it wasn't for having gone into some of your churches and seeing that your Christians are not like Christ at all. And that's just an honest statement. That's just an absolutely honest statement that is true throughout time and throughout place. Now, I know there's exceptions. I know there are wonderful Christians all around the globe at every time in Christian history, but sometimes we've persecuted them. The Huguenots and others have been persecuted. And I know that in every aspect of Christianity, you could find somebody who is salt of the earth. I know there are exceptions to the rule, but the rule is the church is a pretty ugly thing. It's an offensive thing. Because it's made up of people who oftentimes, if you look back at church history, what you'll realize is when the church is oppressed, that's when it's the best. That's when you see sacrificial love, you see unconditional love, you see acceptance, you see empathy, you see these wonderful stories of self-sacrifice and of holding one another up, and of Christian community and just you could see the Spirit of God there. You don't have to, just listen to lectures about it and wonder why some things don't compute. You could actually see it. You see this in modern times if you go into a Celebrate Recovery meeting. You could see the Holy Spirit that's active in there. There's authenticity. There's mutual love. There's encouragement. There's respect. There's understanding. There's true empathy in Celebrate Recovery. Now, you don't see that in the church. And part of the reason is when the church comes into power, right? When Christianity becomes the oppressor. Well, when Christianity comes into power, it becomes the oppressor. It falls in love with power. Christian nationalism in this country has crowded Christ out. Christ is now no longer the central point of the faith. He's an asterisk, right? Donald Trump has become bigger, or the next election, or the Supreme Court, or Roe versus Wade, or throwing the Second Amendment, throwing the taxes and immigration. And so you have people spouting off about building the wall when you read the Bible, and the Bible tells you how to treat the stranger. And it's nothing like build the wall. It's actually the opposite of that. And yet you have Christians pretending that somehow this is part of the gospel. Anyway, are you done? Mm-hmm. I'm almost done. So I just wanted to say this. Jesus persists. Why? Because his words were amazing. Now, forget, again, I know my audience here. I know we have some Christians who believe that Jesus was the Son of God, and he's seated at the right hand of the Father right now. And I know that we have some skeptics and atheists who believe that Jesus is a legend. He existed, but things have been blown out of proportion, and he's laying in a mass grave somewhere, and all the rest is made up. What I'm trying to do is draw you to why Jesus persists today. And he persists because there is truth there, because there's beauty there, because there's goodness there. He persists in a way that is infinitely even more important than our natural attraction to a character like Robin Hood or Zorro. He is a hero beyond that reckoning. And I would encourage you, and this is what this show does, I would encourage you to strip all of it away. And I'm not saying ignore scandal. I'm not saying ignore scandal in the church or all that hurt. I'm saying set that stuff aside and consider why Jesus persists in spite of those things, in spite of how bad, how corrupt people in his name have carried themselves and have treated others, in spite of the fact that science has refuted and debunked a lot of what we thought was in our faith, that was required for our faith. And yet, Jesus is still standing. That's something, as Arsenio would say, that makes you go, That's my whole goal for today, is to try and point back to Jesus and say, now look, you have to open your Bible. Right, let me just close with this, okay? Yes, you have to open your Bible to find out about what allegedly is true of his life. Most of the life of Jesus is found in the Gospels and Acts, and so you would have to open a Bible for that. Understand that those were selected texts that were brought together, though. Here's a revolutionary truth that not many Christians know. I'd say 99% of Christians don't know this, and most skeptics don't. And it's this, and it's absolutely true, and you could confirm it. Right? It's an historical truth. It's an empirical truth. Jesus isn't the result of the Bible. Jesus isn't known because of the Bible. Jesus isn't relevant because of the Bible. The Bible is relevant because of Jesus. Now, how does that work if I just told you had to open the Bible to find out about Jesus? Well, the Bible didn't exist for hundreds of years until after Jesus. The whole New Testament was inspired by the life of Jesus. The whole New Testament wouldn't exist without Jesus. The Old Testament wouldn't be known. The Hebrew Scriptures would not be known at all if it wasn't for Jesus, because they are known mostly because they're tied to the New Testament and sold together in what we call the Holy Bible. And to be honest with you, without Jesus, only a handful of Jewish sages, so a small percentage of a small percent of the world's population, would have any idea about the Torah or the writings or the prophets. As a matter of fact, the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, came together later than the New Testament. That canon was decided upon even after the New Testament canon, which was haggled over for hundreds of years after Christ died. So look, without Jesus, there is no Bible. Without Jesus, there's no New Testament. Without the New Testament, nobody's ever heard of the Old Testament or the Hebrew Scriptures. Nobody. So Jesus made the Bible relevant. And that's something that makes you go, All right. That's all I got for today. What do you got, Poe? Hold on. Let me go to your screen. Oh, why is this screen so bad? Let me switch this real quick. Is it that one? There we go. All right. Hang there. Hold on.
Hurry up.
There. Boom.
Okay. So, what I made was, see, this is your incense.
Uh-huh.
And it looks like a tiny volcano.
Oh.
So I made some lava.
Lava flow.
And a guy
Yeah.
burning to death.
Is he smiling, though, or is that a mustache?
No, he's screaming.
Oh, he's screaming in pain.
Mm-hmm.
So the volcano erupted and swallowed.
With your incense.
He kind of looks like Wallace with maybe he dyed his hair from Wallace and Gromit. That's a Wallace ear.
Yeah,
right there.
He has big ears.
He's got big ears. No Gromit. Gromit was able to run, but Wallace got caught up in the lava flow. All right, folks. You got anything else, Poe? Anything you want to add to what we talked about today?
I got new glasses.
Photochromatics. They're awesome. Folks, we love you. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.